Welcome to Off Court with Greg Rusedski. I'm joined by Kevin Palmer from Tennis 365. We've got to get into the Monte Carlo tournament, the first Master Series on clay. What a final we had there between Carlos Alcaraz, the world number one, and the world number two, Jannik Sinner. That final match was to decide who's going to be the new world number one on Monday. And I have to say, Kevin, I think I got it right. I predicted Mr. Sinner again, and you went for Carlos Alcaraz. So there is a new number one again in the men's game. And Sinner actually leads now with more weeks at number one by 1 week in total coming up this Monday over Carlos Alcaraz.
67 plays 66, and I need to stop backing Carlos Alcaraz, Greg. I mean, look, I love Carlos Alcaraz. I think he's the best thing tennis has got at the moment. But for some reason, when I back him, he loses. I didn't back him for the Australian Open. I backed Sinner. Carlos won that, and then I've been backing him for the Sunshine double out in Indian Wells and Miami. He didn't win out there. Now I've backed him for Monte Carlo. He hasn't won there. Look, I don't know. I need to start backing Jannik Sinner more. I go back to where I was at the start of January when I backed Sinner to win all four slams, and that went really wrong. Maybe I should just not do predictions, Greg. That's where we're
Well,
at this point. But
if anybody's looking for predictions, just go with the opposite of Kevin and you'll get it
yeah.
right usually.
Follow Mr. Rusedski, everybody. That's the way forward because Greg's been spot on with nearly every prediction this year. I have to say so. Well done. But yeah, I mean, look, a fascinating final. And, I thought that Carlos might have a little bit of an edge over Jannik on clay because also coming back off those two big, long weeks he had in Indian Wells and Miami. That was a tough to win both of them and then to back it up by winning in Monte Carlo. Only Novak Djokovic has done that before back in 2015. So a pretty impressive record from Jannik Sinner to do that. And he really does feel like he's got all the momentum. I mean, on the match that we've witnessed on Sunday, Greg, what were your thoughts in terms of the tactics? I thought one interesting point for me was that Sinner was stepping forward a long way on that second serve from Alcaraz and really trying to pressure him. Every time these two guys play, we see something a bit different. To me, that was something a little different today. He was really trying to attack the second serve.
Well, conditions were a little bit colder than it was at the start of the week where it was hot, the ball was flying, so he could take the ball a little bit earlier. On top of that, there was a little bit of wind and gust you could see from the back of the court. And I just feel like Sinner's preparation was better leading into the event. We talked about it. He was already there Thursday morning at the practice courts. Carlos showed up on the Saturday for the event. So Sinner, who's just won the Sunshine Double, had the perfect preparation going in there. He's never won in Monte Carlo. It's his first title there. And you alluded to the fact that he's the only man since Djokovic to do all three. But Djokovic won all three finals in 3 sets. Sinner, on the other hand, has dropped a total of 1 set so far in 3 Master Series tournament, which is quite incredible. And he's a better player. He looks healthier. He looks like he's hitting the ball harder. Break points taken today was the only bad stat for him. I think he was something like 3 for 11 in total, or 2 for 11, which, if he's at 40% or 50%, this is much more of a one-sided match. But also, you looked at Carlos, he was struggling on the backhand wing as well in the final. And if you give basically a side that's slightly weaker to Sinner, he's going to take advantage. So Jannik looks like he's flowing. He looks a little stronger physically and mentally right now than Carlos.
That Sinner serve as well, Greg. There was times in the end of the first set where I thought Carlos was getting on top. It felt like he was just had opportunities to close out that first set, but Sinner's serve just took it away from him. I don't know whether he's improved it, but it's certainly gone up since the US Open last year when Carlos had too much for him.
Well, I like to look at the numbers. His accuracy numbers have gone up. Last year, he led the categories in serve and return, which no player had done before in the history of the ATP Tour. His serve has gotten better this year. He's hitting his spots. He's closer to the line. He's the best in the world at the moment and improving that area. And you look at his return to serve, it's phenomenal. It's just amazing. His transition game's improved, his drop shot, everything is coming together. It's like he's got this desire to be back to number one, which he achieved this week, and he just wants to go from strength to strength. If you look at the collection, there's one missing from his trophy cabinet at the moment. And he had a few match points last year to try to add Roland Garros. So he's trying to do things that are new to him that he hasn't done before. And this is a huge step to trying to do what Carlos has already done, holding all 4 majors. The one missing is in Paris. And that's what he is really aiming for and trying to win tournaments he hasn't won before.
even though Sinner won this match, Greg, I always feel when I watch him play against Carlos, he doesn't that sort of strut that he has around the court is slightly off a little bit against Carlos. He's taken out of his comfort zone, and that's in a way great for the sport because if he was out there on his own and Carlos wasn't around, he'd be completely dominating. It doesn't, even though Carlos is 10-7 up in there head to head now still, and it does feel like Sinner's got the momentum at the moment, but it's not very much not a lost cause for Carlos, is it? I mean, the drop shot still was effective against Sinner at times. There was parts of the game where Sinner looked uncomfortable. So I still feel moving forward in this clay court season that Carlos is going to have a lot of success, and I'd expect them to play the Roland Garros final again.
Well, I think this is the matchup everyone wants to see, and almost every tournament they're going to play, they're most likely going to meet in the finals because the other contenders, Zverev this week, Sinner dispatched him very easily in the semifinal. But if you look at Zverev's road through, he had a lot of tough three-set matches battling, and you've got to be fresh when you meet Sinner or Alcaraz in the semis to have a chance. So Zverev's going to improve through the clay court season, but again, these guys are separating themselves from the pack. And also, the great story in Monte Carlo was Vacheron. The boy from Monte Carlo makes the semis. Carlos had a little bit of gamesmanship there at 5-4, was that one shot, sorry, at 4-all in the second set, 40-15 up on the Vacheron serve, and he called for a replay because he thought he'd double hit it. That little bit of a momentum change there allowed him to break and close it out in straight sets. But, it's been a fantastic opening tournament here on the clay in Monte Carlo. But you feel from Carlos's point of view, he's got to get that focus a little bit better, get the backhand firing a little bit more. And also, he just doesn't seem quite as sharp at the moment that he has been at the beginning of the year because there was such a focus because the split with Juan Carlos Ferrero. He went on a tear, I think 16 matches in a row, and then he's had a little bit of dip since there and hasn't been the same player. But I expect him to reemerge. Does he need more time off? Does he need to play more? That's where he's got to find the balance for himself with his team. And, this is where Sammy Lopez is going to have to figure things out a little bit to get him back to his best. And, even not at his best, he's still making finals here in Monte Carlo.
Jamie Delgado was on our show a few weeks back, and he made the point that he feels that from maybe four down, the quality isn't there and not as good as your era or the era after that. Maybe have we seen that again this week? Sinner and Alcaraz are in a completely different league, and you look at the De Minaurs, the Zverevs, they're not really getting any closer to them, are they?
Well, I think for Zverev, he's trying to be more aggressive and he doesn't feel natural. I mean, he was one game away from stopping Carlos having all four majors. So, he's knocking on the door. He just hasn't quite figured it out. We haven't seen Novak since he beat Sinner in the Australian Open. So, we want to see him back. We saw him in Indian Wells briefly for one tournament where he lost to Jack Draper. So when Novak comes back into the mix, and then you've got a few other guys like Medvedev upset Carlos in Indian Wells, didn't play well here, lost double bagel to Berrettini, which was a shock. I mean, that was, nobody would have predicted that one before. So we've had some interesting results, and the guy we're always talking about is Draper. And Draper's back this week in Barcelona coming up, and be interesting to see if he can get some momentum because let's not forget he's got a lot of points to defend going into Madrid where he made the final.
Just on Medvedev, Greg, a double bagel and that racket smash at 2-love in the second set was pretty epic. I mean, what was the biggest loss of your career? I mean, I can't imagine you ever lost 6-love, 6-love, did you?
I have that wonderful thing losing 0-0 in a major in Paris. I was 7-6 first set to Verdasco, and then he beat me love and love. So I have lost double bagel sets. It's happened to everybody in a career. I can't remember doing it outside on the main tour in 2 out of 3 sets, but I could be wrong. When you get older, you just forget things and you try to erase all those bad losses. But that one I remember because it was in Paris at Roland Garros, and I thought, wow, this guy's gangbusters and should have a deep run. And then he loses in the next round, but that's life. That's tennis.
And racket smashes, was that your thing?
I think I have some anger, especially coming out in the tour. When you're trying to go through the futures and then come through on the challengers, sometimes you can have some eruptions and break a few racks. I broke a few in my career, not too proud of it, but nothing like Medvedev did. I mean, he really got rid of that racket. And the irony, even though he lost love and love, you could see he was trying at 110%. He was trying to find a way to get through there. And I think it's just one of those days you just got to erase, move forward. He's too good a player, making too good progress. It'd be fascinating to see him in his next event on the clay because historically he doesn't like playing on the clay. He doesn't like the sliding. But to me, he's a much better player now than he was a year ago where he had better results on the surface. But it's only week one. Let's give him a break.
And Djokovic didn't play this week. We're not surprised whenever Novak pulls out of an event now, but we've spoken about the need for him to keep that ranking up to the top four so that he doesn't have to play Sinner and Alcaraz before the semi-finals. I mean, where do you see him popping up now in the next couple of weeks? You said maybe Rome last time we spoke. I thought, is that still where you think?
Yeah, I think probably in Rome. I think he likes Rome because he speaks Italian. He likes the courts. He's always played well there as well. I'd like to see him in Madrid as well. Madrid, Rome, week off, play Paris. But maybe he's thinking I go Rome, week off, Paris, then get ready for the grass. But, Novak knows how to manage his body, and you saw what he did down under in Australia. So never discount a great champion. But the problem he has is Jannik Sinner looks like it's a different beast right now. The first part of the year was all Alcaraz. Now, since the hard courts in the Master Series have started, it's all about Sinner at the moment. So it's going to be fascinating. We want somebody to step up, as we saw in Indian Wells and in Miami, but nobody's touching Sinner at the moment the way he's playing it, and he doesn't look like he's going to drop his level.
This time last year, Greg, Carlos played Monte Carlo Barcelona, and then he got injured at the end of Barcelona in the final. I mean, is it risky playing two different events, 2 weeks back to back, different locations? He doesn't need to do it, does he? I mean, you said before maybe he needs to look at his schedule and not play quite as often. Is it a risk playing back to back?
Well, I think he wants to play in Spain. I'm sure he's got a massive guarantee to play in Barcelona as well. And he's the premier name there, and not only in Spain, but globally. So this is where he's got to find that sort of hunger. And sometimes people like to play matches more than they like to practice. And this is where the physio works overtime. This is where the coach balances the practices out. He's not far away. The problem with Sinner and Alcaraz, when they lose a match, we all go, oh my God, what's happening? What's the next thing going to go on? But for me, the concerning part was in Miami when he's complaining about being there, getting a little bit sick of tennis, and all those comments he had on the sideline. So he's got to find that freshness and that hunger, because it looks like Sinner's like Djokovic 2.0 right now. It's just you never get a drop with Jannik. And I mean, he has just been phenomenal the last few weeks.
And when we look at Carlos, he's not number one anymore, so he doesn't have that to worry about. He can relax and go out and enjoy himself, right?
Well, he can, and everybody's saying, "Oh, it's really odd what he said," because this week leading in, the Tennis Channel and a few other companies asked him, "Well, you're not going to be number one. Sinner can probably take over," and he's like, "Yeah, no big deal. I'm probably going to lose it because of all the points I have to defend, being very straightforward and honest." And for these guys right now, yes, number one is important. They love to be number one, to be the top dog, but for me, it's about winning majors. So if you look at, say, Sinner and you look at Alcaraz, if Sinner goes on and he wins Madrid, he wins in Rome, but he loses in Roland Garros final, and Alcaraz wins Australia and wins Paris, they're going to trade their Master Series for those two major titles. And that's where they want to peak. But also, it's a combination of confidence coming through. I look at Alcaraz and I look at Sinner. I think it's much more difficult to get through Sinner because of his return to serve. With Alcaraz, if you hit your spots, you can get on the front foot and you can knock him around the court a little bit because he's not as tall. And if you hit the spots, that's where you have to take advantage. As we saw with Vacheron on a few points in that semifinals, when you have a big server, he's not always comfortable. Well, if you look at Jannik, no matter what server he's playing, whether it's a big server, medium server, he always looks like he's there, and he's in every return game, as well as the serve numbers we've talked about, which has been phenomenal.
I mean, he grew up on clay, but at the start of his career, he often said, "This is the surface I'm not enjoying as much." I mean, he doesn't seem to have a problem on it. He was very close to winning Roland Garros last year. His movement is great on clay. Why would he not like it? But it feels like if he is the king of hard courts, I think Alcaraz said in the net, clay, grass, hard courts, everywhere you go, you're brilliant, kind of thing. So it just shows that he can. Maybe it was a psychological thing that he didn't think he was a good on clay. Maybe.
Well, I think it's about feeling comfortable with the movement. I think the hardest part for myself, for someone who hasn't grown up on red clay courts, even though he's, was with Riccardo Piatti a lot of the time when he was younger, they would have played on a lot of clay. It's the movement, it's the balance, it's the sliding, it's know when to slide, when not to slide, the use of the drop shot, changes of heights. He likes to go through people physically. And he's such a good mover now on the clay, on all surfaces, that there's no reason why he shouldn't feel supremely confident. And I think this is the year where he says, yeah, last year I should have won in Paris, I had my match points. I'm not going to panic. I'm going to find solutions. And the best movers on the clay court and the guys who are the most physically strong usually go on to win. And I go, tick, Sinner, tick, Sinner. And I don't think we're going to be talking or questioning, yeah, I don't feel as comfortable. Maybe he's more comfortable on hard courts, but this guy's complete on all surfaces. He's a nightmare on grass, clay, hard. One more for the trophy cabinet, and he'll be one of the few men to win all four majors, which would be an unbelievable accomplishment for both Alcaraz and Sinner to have that so young if he wins in Paris this year.
Week one, Greg, only had the clay court season, but are we thinking Sinner's the man to beat already? Is that fair enough?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we saw the emotion last year when he lost in Paris. He was crying, he was upset, but the rebound was phenomenal. I always say, to me, if I look at all the players on the tour right now, the number one player to me mentally is Jannik Sinner. I mean, what he had to deal with last year with the drug case and everything that went on, the way he managed it, the way he accepted it, the way he is with his team. He's got a very good team of people around him. And for such a young man, he says, I only listen to people I respect and people I'll take their opinions from. The rest of the noise, I don't worry about. And that, for such a young age, and to be able to be that transparent and that honest, is exceptional. And that's why, for me, if he stays healthy, he's getting to 20 digits, and so is Alcaraz, and it's in between the ears. And I think that's where he's just a little bit stronger than everybody on the tour. If you look at the most complete player, it's Carlos Alcaraz. But he had a brilliant start to the year, wants to peak for the majors, and this is what makes it intriguing. Who's going to peak when it really matters with the big four tournaments, the biggest tournaments in the world that everybody wants to win?
The closest he's come to getting beaten anywhere is almost when he gets sick. He had cramps in China. He got sick in Cincinnati, and this week in Monte Carlo, it looked like he was gonna have an illness problem as well in one of his matches. That's almost like just a little thing in the background. You wonder whether his stomach is a little susceptible to a bit of illness occasionally.
Well, he's so lean. If you look at his
Yeah.
body fat, there's almost nothing on him. It's kind of reminiscent of Novak Djokovic. And you look at the greats, okay, you look at Nadal and Murray, both of those guys were really big, strong, physical guys, but they had a lot of more injuries, a lot of more surgeries, a lot of more things to deal with. You look at Federer and you look at Novak, they're skinny strong. So when you're skinny strong and you don't have much body fat, you're more susceptible to those bugs and other things because you're playing with small margins. And that's where diet, illness, washing your hands, doing all these little things a little bit better. And even when he is ill, it still takes a Herculean effort to try to beat him.
He only seemed to be over about 20 minutes in his match the other day, so he can overcome illness. The man's a Superman, isn't he?
No, the guy is truly phenomenal, and we're so blessed to have two great players after the big three rivalry, their big four, you want to call it. And also, we got to talk a little bit about the scenes. Monfils winning a match in Monte Carlo, his last ever Monte Carlo tournament. Stan Wawrinka, the same thing. We saw the emotion after he lost in his opening round. It is a special tournament, but also we can see how the weather can change. Because I was there last week, sunny, hot, balmy. Finals, windy, a little bit chillier for the players to manage. So this is always the adjustments you have to make in Monte Carlo. But the weather overall, it was nice for Monte Carlo because some years it can be exceptionally difficult to play in cold and wet conditions.
Greg, you mentioned you were there last week with Giovanni Pecci Pericard. It created a bit of a stir when you got the coaching role that we announced on the show last week. I mean, just for the second half of the show, we're just going to look at a few players with your coaching head on and how you think you might improve them. It's almost impossible to improve someone who's 3 or 4 in the world, you might think, but there is always
No,
areas
no,
we can
I,
look
I,
at,
I,
isn't there?
I disagree with you on that
Yeah.
because if you're one, two, three, or four in the world, you're always improving. Because the reason they stay the best is because they're always adding to the game. Look at Sinner. I've got to come forward more often. I've got to use the drop shot. I've got to change heights of the ball. Carlos tactically at the US Open made a great change after losing the Wimbledon final last year. So whether you're one in the world or whether you're 300 in the world, you're always having to get better some way, physically, mentally, tactically, technically. You're always having to look to get better. If you don't, there's only one direction you go backwards. And that's what's so impressive about Sinner. He's gotten better since he lost the Australian Open. Alcaraz, it was unbelievable to start the year, but it's having a fractionally dip. So now the coach has to find some way, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, whether it's tactically, to get him back up. So there's always something to work on.
So let's put you in the coaching box with a few guys, Greg, if we can. So let's look at Alexander Zverev to start with. They often say he's the best player never to win a slam, but it doesn't feel like he's getting quite up to that level that he needs to. He was almost closer a couple of years ago when he very nearly won the US Open in that weird COVID year, but he got very close in Australia, nearly beat Carlos. If you were Zverev's coach, what would be your sort of first two things you'd say if you went on court with him?
Well, I think, the good thing is he's always searching. I think last year he was very clever. He went to see Rafael Nadal. Iga Swiatek went to go see Rafael Nadal. I mean, if you're talking about the greatest mindset of any player, I mean, Rafa's up there with the best about positivity, good body language, improving your game, trying to get better. And we saw with Sasha, he was close against Carlos. He was the only man who could have knocked him out of that tournament. And he was 5-3 up, serve for the match, was tentative at the big moments, didn't go after his serve enough, didn't go after his forehand. Everybody says you need to play a little closer to the baseline in transition. He's improved that. For me, it's getting him in practice to practice the biggest moment in sets and get him to visualize and work on those areas where he's serving it out or he's up a break in the final set, needing to be more aggressive at the big moments. He has to also do that in the early rounds. Lendl with Murray was like, if you're going to win a major, you're going to have to be aggressive from the start of the tournament. So when you come against the very best, you're still playing the same way with the players who are ranked a little bit less. So for me, I wouldn't say it's technical. Everybody's talked about hitting through the forehand, getting on top of the baseline, making the second serve, going after it. So all those things he knows about, every coach has told him about it. To me, it's the mindset at the big moments and practicing with those big moments thing. And he's closer than you think, even though in the Masters series he's been beaten pretty convincingly against Sinner. For me, he's not far off. Paris is his goal right now. He's been in the final there. It's about winning a major. So yes, he would like to have a closer scoreline against these guys, but he's building nicely. Don't discount him. He's not far off. But to get through Alcaraz and Sinner is the question nobody solved yet.
Exactly. Iga Swiatek, put Coach Greg's hat on here. She just started a new coaching arrangement from Francisco Roig, who was working with Raducanu and briefly with Giovanni as well, who you're now working with. When you look at Iga, are you seeing a technical problem, or are you seeing, again, it feels to me like it's in the mind a little bit. When the pressure's on, she's not dealing with it too well.
Well, I think it's belief. She plays at a very frantic pace. One area, if I was working with her, that I'd look in, but it's very hard to do in the start of clay court season, is the serving motion. I don't like the serving motion so much, but some people have these things and it takes time to change those things. But she's been number one. And right now with Rafa, it's getting that mindset and that belief. And for her, I think this clay court season with her new coach, Francisco Roig, is going to be very important because the fact that her expectations aren't to show up at clay court season, it's to win every week because she was the queen of clay when Rafa was the king of clay. And I think spending time with Rafa was huge for her in Mallorca. Can't wait to see what she's going to do in her first week back because I know Francisco's coaching, he likes to change a lot of things quickly. And if you change things quickly, sometimes you can hurt the player, and sometimes on top of that, it gives them a little bit of a doubt. But I think Swiatek's game style is more in the mold that he had with Rafa. So that's not many changes. It's more psychologically, tactically, and getting that belief and that intensity and a few patterns he'd like to add in because, I think with certain players, he was trying to change them, use the drop shot, change of heights we heard about with Raducanu, and that really didn't suit her game style. And he likes to add those dimensions, but you have to be careful when you put those dimensions into play, depending on the player. And also when you give them different movements, sometimes you can get injuries on the players as well. So there's a lot of things you have to take into account, but I'm interested to see how that partnership starts up as well.
Jess Pagula and Maddie Keys were on another podcast saying it should be illegal that Rafa's allowed to get Iga on court and fix all the problems in one hit. I mean, it's not going to work like that. But being on court with Rafa has to be inspiring, doesn't it?
No, it does. I mean, every player's heroes, Rafa. I mean, Giovanni and Pecci Paracard, who I'm working with, I was trying to get a little bit of time on court with Rafa and myself and him. That's something I'd like to do with him because Rafa's an inspiration. I mean, he talks about no excuses, take ownership of what you can, positivity, and intensity. And if you do all those things every day, you're going to get what you want out of it, training and working hard. So for me, any player, any coach, any time you can spend with Rafa, yes, yes, and yes. And if you take the legends, whether it's even Murray, look at Andy Murray's effect on Jack Draper. Spending time with him as well as rubbed off on him. I had Stefan Edberg living in London where I'd have practice sessions with him when he was world number one. It rubbed off on myself and Tim Henman. Just spending time with those greats and people who've achieved the ultimate in our sport is only going to be a help. And it was interesting to hear him yelling, not yelling, but like encouraging and saying up, down, that's good, that's not, this, that, and the other. it really gives you a belief with your team and with yourself, and you realize it's not doing something magical. It's doing the simple things really, really well consistently.
João Fonseca's had a very good week. His first Masters 1000 quarterfinal in Monte Carlo really showed a lot of promise all the way through his career, but it really feels like he's come of age a little bit the last few weeks. If you're Coach Greg in that box, what are you looking at for Fonseca? What's the area you'd be picking on?
I don't think I'm picking on too much at the moment. I'm loving the fight. I'm loving the mindset. I'd say keep healthy. Health is your wealth. That was the problem in Australia. Should have never played in Australia. The body wasn't ready. I have been really impressed with his game. He's a complete player. He can come forward. He can change it up. He can hit through you. The fighting that he's doing and the way he's mentally staying in there is so impressive. So I would just give his team right now an A star and just keep on building the way you're building, because there is so many options in his game, and then sometimes tactically he just has to get it a little bit better, but he is going the right direction, and he's a guy that I think if he keeps on this path, top 10 at the end of the year, and a guy who's threatening for slams in probably a year to 2 years.
And he was quite close in Monte Carlo to making further progress. Very impressive performances on clay courts.
Yeah, it is, but clay is a natural surface for him. You're South American, you're Brazilian. Your idol growing up is probably Gustavo Kuerten, the three-time French Open champion, world number one. So in Brazil, he's the man. And as we saw in Indian Wells, we saw in Miami, there's enough South Americans out there supporting him. And he has been very consistent the last few weeks. And he's going to be a guy who's quarters, semis, finals of these Master Series and clay court tournaments coming up. But it's staying healthy, managing the body, and just keeping on building. So for me, I say keep doing what you do in the team the last few months.
We've had an incredible response every time we've mentioned Alex Eala on this show. Greg, I think I'm a new hero of the Philippines. So let's chat a little bit about Alex. I mean,
Shall we start
she's
our shall we start our podcast in the Philippines? Do you guys like us to come out? We can do a daily show.
the Alex Eala special. But look, she's in Stuttgart this week. She was meant to be playing in a slightly lower ranked event. When it's tricky, isn't it, when you're sort of in that 30 to 40 range to know when to really go for it in the 500s on the WTA tour, or whether you're better off in the 250s. We've had this discussion with Emma Raducanu the last couple of years. What are your thoughts on her going straight in? I think she got Leila Fernandez first up. Iga Swiatek's in that sort of section of the draw with her. She's actually been hitting with Iga Swiatek in the warm up because Iga's been down with Rafa. So the practice sessions she's been having with Iga, that will probably help her to get to that next level as well, potentially.
Oh, no question about it. They had this lovely picture where they showed them at the graduation ceremony for Fiala. And Swiatek was the one giving the speech for the day at the Nadal Academy. And then they had a picture of them together practicing as well. So for me, it's great to step up the level. You want to see if you can do it with the very best at the very highest level. And she's beaten Swiatek already. She's beaten a lot of great players. Why not? And Leila Fernandez, the Canadian lefty, is tricky. But Iala's going to have to find a way. You'd expect her to come through that one, but it's going to be a tight match. And then if she plays Iga, that would be blockbuster, especially after all the time at the academy practicing together. So for me, I'm always optimistic about her. I always think she's challenging herself. She's a great team of people around her. She's fully committed and she's got great support. And everything's kind of new at the moment. We talked about, yes, the serve needs to be better. Yes, when she comes through a big hitter, sometimes she struggles and gets hit off the court. But you got to consistently put yourself out there. She's going to get stronger physically. She's going to get more tactically astute. She's going to start hitting the ball harder. And she's got a great training facility. So there's no reason why she can't add those areas. And the team around her is very good. And when you have Rafa again, we're talking about Rafa. He seems to be with every single player we're talking about. As your advisor, it doesn't get any better.
Andy Murray said, I remember in an interview, that a lot of the top players were practicing with him up to a certain point, and then the Federers and that decided they didn't want to know him anymore because he was getting too good. Is that a sign maybe that Iga doesn't see Eala as a threat at the moment? She's happy to sort of practice with her and be a mentor a little bit on the side?
Well, I think so. So, like, usually the top players, they want to see what the up and coming youngsters are like, to see how the ball feels off the racket, to see what they think tactically. Can they stay with them physically through the tempo? And Novak's done that a lot. Federer's done that. But then once they feel the young gun is getting a little bit too much information off their patterns that they don't like, or the shots that trouble them, then all of a sudden the practice stops very quickly.
One player's got a lot of ranking points to defend, Coco Gauff, and we often talk about the serve, and we talk about the forehand. She's a French Open champion. There's a lot of ranking points going to be coming off her record if she doesn't do well over the next few weeks. If you're in the coaching box, everyone said, or Pat Cash was on, he said it thinks it's quite an easy fix. Would you see the fix on Coco's serve as easy? Would that be almost too blasé to say that?
I think it's trusting the change.
Yeah.
And getting to the finals of Miami was huge for her. She lost in 3 sets to Sabalenka. She's too good an athlete, and mentally, she is tough as nails. To me, with the deficiencies she had on her game with her forehand and her second serve to win 2 majors already is phenomenal. If she can clean up that serve, because, we talked about the 3 motions you need on the serve when Pat Cash was on the podcast, and she's on the cusp of it. And if she can get that last thing into place, believe in and get the consistency, there's no reason why not. It's just going to make her life easier. Then she has a chance to be number one and consistently possibly stay there. But Sabalenka's distancing herself from the pack because she does everything from body management to scouting to everything. She just does that extra little bit more than everybody at the moment. And Coco's smart enough to realize if I want to be number one, I want to consistently win a major to 2 majors a year, I need to improve the serve like Sabalenka did. Because the rest is really there with a little bit of an improvement in the forehand. So I think once she gets over that hurdle and can come through a week where she wins and she doesn't have any talk about the serve, then she's ready to step up to the next level and go to the top of the women's game because she has the ability to do so. And she's such a good player. She's very clever. She's well spoken and she is so mentally strong. So I really hope that during this clay court season, we're not talking about her serve anymore. And she's found that little solution and that belief to get it over the line. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Jamie Delgado's got the job at the moment, but we've talked a little bit about Jack Draper. I mean, that new serve, we saw a glimpse of it in Indian Wells, seemed to work quite well, something a little bit different. Where do you think Jack is at the moment? Obviously, health is the wealth, as we always say, and that arm needs to stay strong, doesn't it?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing him play this week in Barcelona. Saw a few of the practice clips and a few of the practice sessions. The serve position, which Jamie said as well, is he used to have a platform when he was younger before rather than bringing the foot up. So it's not a huge change. It's taking stress off the shoulder and off the areas that have been bothering him. So if he can stay healthy, that's the most important thing. Jack's a complete player. And if he's healthy, he's already beaten Alcaraz on multiple occasions. He's in the mix. Nobody likes to play him. A lefty big server who hits his spots. It's a great combination and a complete player. They're working his transition game to come forward, to finish points at the net as well. Just no different than Sinner. Use of the drop shot as well. And for him, he just needs a long period of time. I mean, we talk about Sinner and Alcaraz. When do we talk about them being injured? Never. So for Jack, yes, you add those little dimensions, which Jamie's doing and James Trotman was doing as well. Great coaching setups he has as well. And if he can stay healthy, he's in the mix. And, we talk about, Jamie was on the podcast and he said, from 4 afterwards, it's maybe not as depth, but these guys haven't developed as well. So it's a combination too. I mean, imagine when Ben Shelton's backhand gets a little bit more solid or he's on the cusp. Jack stays healthy. Medvedev put himself in the mix. Zverev plays the bigger points slightly better. You got enough guys to make that depth and join that party, and they're all great players, but they're just not finding it against these big two yet. Is the operative word. But they got a lot of hope from what's happened to Carlos in Indian Wells and in Miami.
With Jack, I remember last year at Queen's, I was at the press conference, and he said he felt grass might not be his best surface. It feels like it should be his best surface, but is that because he's such a big guy and it's kind of hard to get down to the low balls?
Well, I think the first time that I thought, okay, Jack has a chance to be a top 10 player is when he took the first set off Novak Djokovic in the opening round at Wimbledon, just going back a few years. I don't know if it's what he honestly feels or it's a removing of pressure. I don't know which one it is. And, obviously, if that's the way he feels, you want to change your mindset about that. You've got to say to yourself, okay, maybe you like the hard courts, you like the clay a little bit better, but it's like Sinner. He's found solutions where he's great on everything. And you've got to convince yourself you're great on the grass courts because it's, again, all about movement. It should suit his game down to a T. Plus, he'll have the crowd behind him. There's always going to be huge expectations with him as well because of what he's achieved so far in his young career. And I think there's no reason why Jack shouldn't go deep on the grass court tournaments, feel comfortable on it, and find solutions. I think he's just too good of a player. So just change that mindset. I love grass. Tell yourself every day, I love grass. I love moving on grass. It's my favorite surface because obviously being a Brit, expectation, pressure, and Wimbledon is so important.
And one player we haven't mentioned, Greg, Serena Williams. We think she's going to come back at some point. I'm thinking it's Wimbledon. What do you think?
Well, I talked about doubles always.
Yeah.
So I was either talking Wimbledon or I was talking US Open with sister Venus playing doubles, waving her off. And like the sisters started together as a pair, they're going to finish together as a pair because nobody's entering the drug thing where they knock on your door at 6 o'clock in the morning and test you if it's not for a special moment. And I hope to see her with her sister on the court. And to me, it sounds like Venus is possibly going to hang them up this year with Serena for her final match of her career. Will it be at Wimbledon? I don't think so. Will they play at Wimbledon? Love to see that. But I think the farewell might be at the US Open because you want to do it in New York, in America, at the biggest tournament in the world for them.
Put Serena in. I spoke to Naomi Cowder a few weeks ago. Put Serena in the top 20 now. Would she be able to compete singles at the age of, I think, 44?
It's all about power and movement.
Yeah.
So that's the big question. When you're away from the game for a long time and the older you get, you're not like a bottle of red wine. You don't always get better with age. She looks in great shape, and I've seen her hit tennis balls and she looks great. It's one thing to watch somebody hit. The only test is to see them play a match against the very best. And when you've been away from the game that long and the older you get, it gets harder. It's the fastest players are usually always the best players. Yes, she had the greatest serve in women's tennis by far by anybody. And if the serve's firing, that makes your life easier. But I think players are returning better, they're moving better. And you can never discount Serena. I'd love to see it, but I don't have an answer for your question because I haven't seen enough.
I don't think it'd be great for the women's game if she strolled back in and started getting near the final of Grand Slams. It would be, it
Well,
wouldn't
I
look
don't know.
great, but that's a different argument.
I kind of disagree with you because
Okay.
people would be intrigued.
Oh,
It's
they
like when
would.
when a boxer comes back and you see like a Manny Pacquiao or you see Floyd Mayweather or you see somebody come back, you go, I really want to see this because you forget Serena is a legend of our game, a 24-time major champion. You could rate her as one of the goats of the game or the goat of the women's game. And if she's having results and going deep, I guarantee you attendance is going through the roof. When they thought she was going to break one of the records at the US Open, the tickets for the women's final were much more than for the men's when she lost, unfortunately, I think it was to Vinci that year in the semis after losing to Madison Key. That's what everybody was talking about. So for me, if Serena comes back and starts winning, yeah, maybe the other players might not like it. But you're talking about your non-tennis fan coming to watch one of the legends. So if she does, it's a win. And if she doesn't, it's not a surprise.
She's not much younger than you, Greg. So a few years younger than you.
Oh
So what
well, I don't know if
you
she's
can
in her
dip
fifties. Let's
back
be
out there.
honest. God help us, please.
Veterans tour, here we come, right?
I don't think so. I think doubles is enough, and nobody wants to pay money to see me or Serena. It's not really a difficult decision, is it? Let's go see Serena tomorrow. Don't even talk about me. I'm not even in the category.
Greg, this has been a great show as always. We've got some amazing guests coming up over the next couple of weeks, guys. So I hope you all enjoy today. Listen and tune in to see who we've got in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be great fun. Subscribe, send us any of your comments, and we look forward to hearing from you. And we'll see you soon.